Hello, and thank you for watching the short subject, Why Cognitive for Security Now? If you've seen any of my other short subject videos, I always talk about this common flow of people interacting with devices which get onto networks, which then access data and applications. And to protect it, we've always talked about the traditional security mechanisms: identity governance, endpoint protection, network analytics, and data isolation, data protection, and governance. But there's another perspective, and the other perspective occurs in natural language, and that is people communicating via same time and email, documents and information being stored on endpoints, social media feeds being used to broadcast information to the masses about people's personal lives and professional lives, and then, of course, intellectual property that exists on the databases. And a lot of the content within this is hidden from traditional security operators. The other perspective for natural language is that bad actors typically only appear to security operations teams as a set of telemetry. And this will typically only happen once the bad actor has initiated their campaign, because internally to an environment, it's not going to see anything negative until something negative happens. If you were to factor in natural language or unstructured information, there may be a whole nother perspective that exists that could be very, very relevant to an investigation or an indicator of threat before it becomes an indicator of compromise that could simply be overlooked if you're not incorporating that into your research process and into your SOC. The other thing that's happening is the amount of unstructured information is absolutely exploding in every single industry. The amount of new documents and content that is being produced, the amount of data coming from sensors and specialized devices like in the Internet of Things realm is absolutely growing out of control. And all of that is unstructured data. And the unstructured data really can't be ingested and isn't very compatible with security sensors and analytics systems. It's like fitting a square peg into a round hole. So that may be the business case for why unstructured information is relevant to a SOC team. But why now for cognitive as it relates directly to security and security operators? So let's look at the other side of the coin. The first thing we're seeing is an absolute explosion in the amount of data being generated into security sensors. So even if we don't talk about the unstructured data, which isn't typically compatible here, let's just look at a standard activity, like somebody accessing the internet. Well, that generates logs, authentication, endpoint, flow, firewall, proxy, and potentially even more than that. And all of that has to be ingested and understood by the security systems to be able to correlate those patterns together and make a determination if something bad is going to happen or is happening. But people don't just surf the internet. In a typical day, an individual will be on a multiple set of applications, and they could be sending emails, doing online shopping or commerce, accessing corporate information, or putting information and documents on cloud shares to work with other agencies, third parties, other people within the corporation. And of course, all of that also generates unstructured data, more unstructured data. So for each individual in the environment, there could be hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of individual pieces of telemetry generated into a security system every single day. So not only does a SOC operator have to deal with all of that, they also have the other challenge. How do you find out what's relevant and what information you should use that you're getting externally as you're looking at all of this vast amount of internal information that is also being generated? You have to make determinations of which threat feeds do I subscribe to, which signatures within those threat feeds are relevant, which blogs should I read, what research reports should I be looking at, and is all of this credible? Even if it seems to be from a good website, there could be an individual article out of 100 that isn't credible, and that could be the one that somebody uses as a basis for classifying a threat, and that creates significant problems. So the other challenge is the fact that there's just not enough people. Now, if you were to ask yourself, how many people do I need in my SOC organization to be effective and protect everything, the answer is going to be more than I can afford. And I hear that from every client I speak to. And so some people try and rationalize by coming up with ratios. Like maybe we need one SOC person per application or data center or SOC or even an entire company. And you may be able to come up with a ratio that works, but the reality of it is the amount of information is growing exponentially, and you're never going to create enough people to build a ratio that's going to sustain an organization and be effective and allow those people to be effective. So you have this really nasty matrix math where you have to look at the volume of external information and the credibility and relevance of it all, the number of people you have to absorb all that information, the amount of unstructured data in an environment which is ever growing, and the amount of telemetry generated per employee or customer within your organization, and it really just equals a nasty equation of frustration. So how do you help to resolve this frustration, help to allow the SOC people to be more effective at their jobs and maybe get more done with fewer people, which is your current model? Well, the answer to that is you need a system that has cognitive and natural language capabilities. And this system has to be able to do a number of things. The first thing it has to be able to do is look at all the external sources and external data and prioritize it to make sure that the information that it is using to help the SOC analyst is not only credible, but relevant and important based on current events and the date which the information was published. It also has to be able to make sure that you're not just looking at a facade, that you're looking at real, tangible, actionable information and research instead of just somebody's hypothesis, even if it is from a credible source. And it has to be strategic so that all the different pieces of evidence that come together from the external research align with the internal telemetry in a way that is accurate to your business and actually helps the process of determining and classifying threats and attack. And really what all this means is that this cognitive system that is helping you with all this research really helps you look at all of the noise and find the signal so that you can focus and be more effective. So the question isn't how effective can a SOC operator or an analyst be sitting at their desk with access to the internet and the internal SOC telemetry tools. It's how effective could that same analyst be if they had a system that could do all of the external research and aggregation for them, or at least most of it, and integrate with the on-premise telemetry so that that same SOC operator can look at the same data points but more rapidly and be able to more accurately and quickly classify things into indicator of threat, indicator of compromise, or assist in investigations after the fact. Thank you.